Eastern Standard. On your platform, there's talk about withdrawing from several globalist organizations. So, for example, Canada leaving the UN Migration Compact, leaving the Paris Accords, exiting the WHO. For voters who might be wondering what would be beneficial about leaving global organizations like this, can you maybe, in your own words, state the significance and how it would truly benefit Canada if we weren't part of all of these different international agreements?
First, we will save a lot of money. As you know, the federal government is giving a lot of money to the UN, and that's something that we will cut if the UN is not promoting our values. And as you know, the UN is a dysfunctional organization, so I can tell you we will save some money over there. And you know, the other example is the Migration Compact, the UN Migration Compact. Both the Liberals and the Conservatives are okay with that. We will withdraw from the Migration Compact because, as you know, one of our important policy is to end mass immigration. So we will withdraw from that. We will have a pause on mass immigration. We will have a moratorium on mass immigration, and that will help Canadians because, as you know, when we have more people in our country, the economy is growing, the pie is growing, but because you know we have more people, the growth of the population is faster than the growth of the economy. So the GDP per capita is lower and everybody is poorer. So we need to stop that. The mass immigration has a huge impact on our standard of living. And you know, by having a moratorium on immigration and not signing that, you know, global compact on migration, it will help Canadians. I can speak about also the Paris Accord. What will be the impact for Canadians if we withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord? It will be huge. The federal government is giving billions of dollars to fight climate change, and both the Liberals and the Conservatives are okay with that. Actually, both of them are ready to cut the carbon tax, but also they agree, both of them, to give more money, more subsidies to promote carbon capture technology to fight climate change. We won't do that, so we will save a lot of money. That will help us to lower taxes to Canadians without being part of the Paris Accord and without also giving subsidies for these green industries and also for that technology, carbon capture technology. Actually, we don't need that to capture CO2 because CO2 is not a pollutant. CO2 is a gas essential for life. And, you know, we actually need more CO2 on this planet. So the best way to capture CO2 is we have a natural technology, a very efficient natural technology that's plants, because CO2 is food for plants. So yes, we don't need to spend billions of dollars on a new technology. It's useless. So yes, these examples are showing Canadians when you don't participate in these socialist, globalist initiatives, it's always better for your country. We are a sovereign country and we want to decide here in Canada what is good for Canadians. And that's the way to put Canada first. When Poilievre is speaking about putting Canada first, he is not doing that in fact, because he's still part of the UN Compact on migration. He will still participate in the Paris Accord. He will spend money to fight climate change. That's not putting our country and Canadian first.
Right. Okay. Thank you. It sounds like the initiative to eliminate the deficit within 1 year is actually linked to this pulling out of programs, as you describe it, from saving all this money on international globalization programs. Now, here at home, the CMHC, so on your platform, it says that the PPC would dismantle or privatize this group. So how would moving the CMHC to private or dismantling it, how would that cool the housing market?
Yeah, first for the housing market, the most important is ending mass immigration. You know, it's a question of supply and demand. So we need to cut the demand. We need to have that moratorium. That will stop the pressures on prices for a home across the country, first. Second, by, like I said, having a 0% inflation target with the Bank of Canada, that will stop inflation. The Bank of Canada won't be able to create money out of thin air because we will have balanced the budget. And second, you know, if you cut, I want people to be able to have a loan for a house if they can afford it. So we don't need that corporation, and the private sector can do that better than these civil servants over there. We will save a lot of money, but actually, that's the best way to be sure that, you know, people will be able to buy a house because the inflation will go down, and actually they will have more competitions. So let's do that. Let's help people, and the best way, like I just said, mass immigration, inflation target, balancing the budget, cutting taxes. People will have more of their own money in their own pockets. They will be able to save, and they will be able to create wealth, and they will be able to buy a house. We don't need that that organization at the federal level.
Understood. Thank you. And I do just have one more question, Mr. Bernier, if that's fine, about the Alberta sovereignty delegation to Washington. So there's a group that is going to meet with American officials to gauge support about Alberta independence or Alberta as a 51st state or territory. What's your take on that?
My take on that is I understand. I'm the only leader of a national party who understands what is happening in Alberta and in Western Canada. And, you know, people in Western Canada are fed up with that big, fat government in Ottawa that is telling them what to do and what not to do, that is interfering in provincial jurisdictions. And, you know, Poilievre is taking, you know, Albertans' votes for granted. The way to be sure that Alberta will stay in this country and will be happy in this country, it's to be sure that the platform of the People's Party will be adopted. We want, like I said in my speech, we want to cut at least by half the equalization payments. That's unfair. We want to change the formula to have a fair formula that will be less generous. We want to be sure that also we will be able to not having all these regulations against you know, your industry, the oil and gas industry, by not participating in the Paris Accord climate. So if you do that, if you give, you know, the autonomy, I know that you want to have your own police force. Why? You can be able to have that. In Quebec, we have our own police force. You want to control your destiny as a province. You want to have more autonomy. We will give you that by a radical decentralization that we will do at the federal level. The federal government won't interfere in health care. If you want to have more private delivery of services for health care, you'll be able to have that. So that radical decentralization is the only way to keep Alberta and Quebec in the Federation in Canada. And I understand if we don't do that, maybe this country won't exist in 10, 15, or 20 years. You have also here in Quebec a separatist movement. The PQ is doing very well in the polls. We will have an election in Quebec in 2026, and we don't know what can happen. So the way to have a constitutional peace in this country is to respect the Constitution. And we are the only national party that will do that. And I understand why, you know, Danielle Smith, had to table a bill to be sure that the federal government won't interfere in the oil and gas industry. With us, she won't have to do that because that's a provincial jurisdiction and we'll respect that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bernier.
Thank you.
On n'a pas d'autres questions sur le Zoom. No more questions on the Zoom.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day, everybody. Bonjour. Merci.